Good afternoon. My name is Karen Kelly, and it is my privilege to introduce my friend and colleague, Melissa Mulrooney. Melissa is a committed leader, a visionary, a consummate professional, an accomplished home chef, and I can tell you from experience, she's a really good chef, and sometimes even plays the role of tour guide when it comes to the 118-acre campus of the Stanford Museum and Nature Center, which she has led for the past 10 years. I fondly recall a recent visit to the Stanford Museum where Melissa gave generously of her time to show off the museum to a fellow colleague of mine at First County Bank. I never failed to be impressed by Melissa's knowledge of every aspect of the Stanford Museum. She knows every inch of that 118-acre campus. It's amazing. I always learn something new every time I go there. Melissa wears her heart on her sleeve when it comes to her passion for the Stanford Museum and Nature Center and her love of being a nonprofit leader. And best of all, it's contagious. People will leave a meeting with Melissa feeling exactly the same way about the museum that she does. Her business acumen and commitment to excellence have helped shape the Stanford Museum into a destination place in Fairfield County. What more could you ask for in a chief executive? My fellow board members and I have the utmost confidence in Melissa. Being named a Brava honoree is a well-deserved accolade for Melissa, someone with whom I've had the privilege of working shoulder to shoulder with for the past several years. Melissa, would you please join me? For your commitment to excellence professionally and within our community, the YWCA would like to honor you with this 2016 Brava Award.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you, my friend Karen Kelly, for your lovely words. I am deeply honored to be in your company many times each month as a bright and strategic leader on our board of directors at the Stanford Museum and Nature Center. And we've been working together for about 8 years now. I also want to thank Ray Giolongo and the great friends at his table and his tremendous leadership and friendship with First County Bank's involvement. I also am very pleased to now be a fellow Brava Award recipient. I want to honor Lynn Valenci-Cohen and my great board of directors for their splendid work, their splendid support, their expertise and leadership of the Stanford Museum. I will tell you, as an executive and CEO, no one works in a vacuum. And I wish to celebrate my beautiful father, Howard Hitchens, who is here today. He's my hero and my best friend. Thanks, Dad, for being here. And of course, I celebrate my fellow honorees. It's really my privilege to be here this year, standing shoulder to shoulder with you. I'm grateful to Adrienne Singer, President and CEO of the YWCA, for her exceptional leadership, and I hope a good new friendship for me. I am thrilled also with the team of professionals that have surrounded the Brava Awards. This is really a privilege to work with such a super team. I'm celebrating 10 years this year with the Stanford Museum and Nature Center, and 32 years in leading very complex, diverse nonprofits to greater success. This is really an unimaginable career for someone who studied theater and English literature at the University of Delaware. But frankly, this career really did choose me in my 20s. I am so grateful, as others have said, to have had many generous mentors who really saw my skill set, quirky as it might have been at the time, and dared to let me help them think differently about their organizations and about their positions in the community. I care so much about the training of and mentoring of young leaders that I spent 5 years at NYU in the master's program teaching principles and practices of visual arts administration so that I could get young graduate students focused on big picture best practices in executive administration for a new generation of museum and nonprofit leaders. I was asked to give a little advice. My advice to high school and college students and young professionals considering nonprofit work is to volunteer and intern with organizations you love. Play in your passion if your work life is not enriching you. Beyond my early work, my early career in my 20s, I was immersed as a volunteer and a patron with various nonprofit organizations and helped to found theater companies in Delaware and contemporary arts organizations, particularly in Wilmington. I've lived in Washington, D.C., Wilmington, Delaware, where I began my museum career, Newport, Rhode Island, New York City, and now Stamford, Connecticut, in Fairfield County. And by patron, I don't mean so much the money piece. I mean the participation in these organizations. You give of yourself when you are involved with nonprofits. And if you're able to also do what you're able to do financially, that's brilliant. But I guarantee you, if you connect your heart to these organizations, that is powerful. It's no secret that nonprofit leadership is kind of a lifestyle job. Today's chief executive role in nonprofits really is not an ivory tower position. We must be nimble decision makers, resourceful fundraisers, authentic communicators, sensitive policymakers, strategic marketers, diplomats, politicians, best practice stewards, and above all, visionaries. Now, how's that for spinning a few plates? I'm deeply honored to be recognized with the Bravo Award for the body of my professional work so far. I'm not going anywhere. This is not a retirement speech. And particularly as I lead the Stamford Museum through very thoughtful growth, there is so much exciting capital campaign work ahead, and I hope you all will come with us on growing the Stamford Museum and Nature Center over the next 10 to 20 years. If you have not visited the Stamford Museum, you should make a point to do so this spring. If you're not a member of the Stamford Museum and Nature Center, you should be. For all of the joy that this destination will bring you and your family, and I mean that. And if you want to arrange for a VIP tour, give me a jingle. The Stamford Museum and Nature Center awaits. I will rev up my golf cart, and yes, Karen, I am driving. Thank you all.